Hey, welcome. We are live. I should say, good morning, America. You were listening to Sales Project Live. Who cares? Hey, I'm excited. Meridith, how you doing? How you doing today?
I am good, thank you. I am ready to rock and roll. I'm super excited because we've got a special guest today.
Yeah, we're kind of got the we're kind of like the, I don't know, Oreo cookie or something like that. But Daryl is sitting right in the middle of us. Daryl Powell, Chief Marketing Officer, VanillaSoft, sponsor of Sales Logic Podcast. Thank you. Daryl, welcome. Say hi to the crowd. Say hi to the world.
Hello, world. It's so nice to be here. What's the process here? Do I stumble with my words like Mark, or do I sound graceful and provocative like Meridith? Just so I'm clear how to play this.
Okay. With that, we're going to go back to square one. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sales Logic Podcast, where you get the truth and the fact from Meridith, Elliott, Powell, and Mark Hunter. Welcome today, Daryl Powell. Okay, is that a little bit better for you?
Well, that's great if it was like 10 o'clock at night. I want to get busy with my woman, but otherwise, hey, it's all good. There we go.
I am so glad that we have this as the pre-show. And hey, we're actually streaming today to LinkedIn. We're streaming to Facebook. We're streaming to YouTube. We are streaming all over the place. And I think our producer, Micah, said we're even streaming on CBS and CNN. So anyway, don't turn that dial. Stay right here. So, hey, Daryl, we do want to say thank you for being the sponsor. Thank you for joining us today. Why don't you tell, and we'll have you do more when we get on to the podcast itself, but give those who may not be familiar with who you are, and what VanillaSoft is.
Fair enough. My name is Daryl Powell. As Mark said, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at VanillaSoft. And VanillaSoft, for those who don't know, we're a sales engagement platform. We like to say we're the world's longest standing sales engagement platform, being founded in the year 2005. We do millions of transactions every single month, where we allow sales teams to actually engage more, talk more, and sell more by using multi-channel engagement. So phone, email, social, video, text, just rapid fire. We have the cadences and the playbooks. And when you use us, you're going to triple your activity. And typically, you're going to see an uptick in your sales pipeline of 35 to 50%, just because of that increased activity. And that's what we do. That's why you should love us.
We do. Mayor, do you like Daryl?
Yeah, I'd say that I do. I love Daryl, because Daryl, the one thing you did not mention is that you do have a podcast of your own. And I really love you to talk about that, because I've been lucky enough to be on a guest on there. I mean, your reach is unbelievable, but you have some really great topics on there, and really some things that our listeners should be paying attention to with your podcast as well.
Oh, Meridith, you are so swell. You've taken lessons, Mark. We do have a podcast. I didn't want to usurp your glory, but the podcast is called, and you have to say it right, okay, folks? It's called Inside Sales. See, Mark, I can do the voice too. And the whole point is where we actually get inside the process of your selling teams, and we talk about everything. Mark's been on it. Meridith has been on it. You name it. If they're a player in this space who you've read, who you've seen on stage, who you follow on social, they've been on the show. We get down, we get dirty. I like to say it's the only show right today that talks meat and potatoes tactics that you can actually apply and be marginally better, 1%, 2% better immediately after listening to just one episode than you were before you began. And the best of all, it's about 25 minutes long. So you can literally listen to it in the commute, if anybody commutes anymore. But if you did, that was the intent. There you go. So you can check that out at insidesales.com. You can go to VanillaSoft website, or you can see it on LinkedIn as well. Thank you again, Meridith. That's nice of you.
Sure.
Mary did some commuting, because you're actually on the road this week, right?
I am on the road this week. I've started live training for a client again. I've got to tell you, it has had its bumps, and we're probably going to take some of it back to video again. It's a little challenging to train with a mask on and doing the social distancing, but I think that Daryl, just in listening to you talk and getting started with this, I imagine that sales engagement and VanillaSoft were really valuable and relevant before COVID. But I imagine that the changes in this industry have made what you do and what you offer in the sales world even more impactful and more relevant. Would you find that to be true?
Well, it's funny you say that because it actually is. And I'll be candid with you, Meredith. It's one of those things when all this went down, like everybody else, you go, what's going to happen? How will we be hit? How will we be hammered? What will our attrition rate be? And one of the things that's particularly, it's a pro and a con when it comes to VanillaSoft is that our contracts are month to month. So if you're going with another vendor, often those are annual contracts, which would mean they could have endured COVID easier because it's already prepaid. And so we expected a large fall off. It was really interesting. We actually had minimal. In fact, we had some, as you might imagine, some areas, some clients, some verticals who slowed down or they paused their subscription. But then we saw this massive uptake in other spaces where there was some huge opportunity. So what we saw was the following. We saw industries like insurance or healthcare where, as you imagine, COVID, am I covered? Do I have the right coverage? Do I have the right health coverage, et cetera? Those took off. And they couldn't hire enough people fast enough. So we actually saw a boom overall in our actual revenues, which was surprising. Beyond that, we actually hired more people. So as people were leaving, other organizations were getting reduced in force, we were bringing them on board. So that was kind of cool. What we saw on the platform as a whole was we saw it dipped at its worst point to about 7% below COVID levels. Now, for context, right, HubSpot, Topo, they saw a 20 to 30% drop in deals. We saw a 7% dip in activity, and that was for 1 week. Within a few weeks, it had gone back to pre-COVID levels. So what that told you is that people were actually using sales engagement even more because of this. The other thing we saw was a massive increase in demand for things like I need a soft phone so that my reps who are now remote, they weren't before, can physically continue hitting their activity numbers. So it was interesting to watch. It was scary. We're happy. We grew out of it, which is really bizarre. We're a good news story. And you could see just how much more dependent sales reps became on sales engagement to continue hitting their numbers.
Yeah.
I think, you bring up a good point.
Go for it, Mark.
Go ahead, Meredith.
No, you go.
You bring up a very interesting point because the whole sales process shifted because of COVID. Trade shows are off the plate, all that typical stuff. And now it's all really, you got to get on the phone. You got to connect with people. So the sales process has really become more accentuated than ever before. And it does really bring up the need to have that tool, that ability to help you be able to engage faster and more relevant, which again is really what I say not only VanillaSoft is all about, but Sales Logic podcast is all about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mayor, jump
about
in.
How do you approach it, right? And Mayor, jump in, but I will agree with you. The thing that was also interesting, what we saw, and it wasn't just the activity of the reps, it was sales leadership to have the confidence that their reps were actually doing the activity. Because maybe I had you in the sales pit before and I could watch you, but now you're gone. So how do I know you're hitting the same activity numbers? How do I make sure you're hitting the right mix of channels, email, phone, social, etc.? How do I know what your success is like? Because I can't listen to you in the pit. But of course, sales engagement does all the recording, it does all the transcripts, it does all the activity, and so it allowed both the reps to adjust, but it also allowed leadership to adjust. And they could actually monitor in real time which reps were reacting well and which ones weren't, and they could reach out to them. So that was fun to watch. It was a real life, as you might imagine, stress test. But here I am rambling again. I think Meredith, you should talk.
No. I think this is great. I think this is so important for our listeners is the fact that, one thing that COVID did is really force change that we all should have been making a long time ago. I mean, it's so much more effective to be able to, in terms of numbers of people that you can call, that you can contact. And I think when some of this turned off, some sales professionals, I know I was working a lot in the medical space, and not being able to call on physicians in person, not being able to take people to lunch was a bit of a shift for people. But I think technology like yours really makes it really a way that people can continue to grow their sales. And I'm not surprised that you have grown during COVID, because that is one reason Mark and I started this podcast, is the fact that this is one of the most important times to be selling. And there is an unbelievable amount of opportunity out there. And selling is one of the ways that we serve and can really help our customers in this environment. So.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that was really neat to watch was COVID. What we've seen on our platform at least is it forced a lot of sales teams to go where they weren't comfortable. So you mentioned, you're selling to doctors, and I can't phone them now. Well, many industries had that challenge, that they weren't physically in the office. So what that caused them to do is say, okay, let's try social media. We've avoided it before. It was scary. All right, well, now I don't have a choice. And a tool like ours can help you with that. But similarly, it was like, okay, I didn't want to call cell phones before. I didn't want to try texting before, but now I kind of have to. So I'm going to do it. And lo and behold, I'm having success and people are responding. So we all had to pivot out of this. And the sales engagement tool was a great way for them to actually do controlled tests, A/B tests. What playbooks were working well? What channels did I avoid before that I had to use now? And so in some regards, it's made us all better salespeople, I would contend.
Yeah, I
agree.
agree.
Bring up a good point there, because I think we had sales hesitancy in so many different areas. People were hesitant to jump in and do something. COVID forced that. And I really think there was an interesting point. We went to WFH, work from home, but that's also SFH and BFH. SFH, selling from home, BFH, buying from home. And that really has forced everyone to create a different level of selling skills. And again, it comes back to, what are the tools that are you using? And more importantly, how do you measure your results? I talk to a lot of salespeople, and they talk about how busy they are, but are they productive? Big difference between busy and productive, because I equate productivity to revenue. Am I creating revenue?
Yeah. I think actually, Mark, that was a really good segue into getting into the show today, because we are going to talk about some of those traditional methods. Since I have the two kings here of prospecting, I want to talk a little bit about the best places to find prospects and to engage with prospects. But what do you say we kick this off? And Daryl, you're going to stick around with us and dive into this show.
Hold it, just a second. Did we say Daryl's going to stay for the show? Okay. We'll let Daryl.
Only because
hey, Mike,
if it was Mark, I wouldn't.
Hey, well, it's okay, but we do have a great voiceover from you. So sit back, relax.
I will.
Let's roll the show.
When we prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
Who has made a prospecting call today?
This is Sales Logic.
Most people refer to VanillaSoft as the solution. It's the solution to ensure sales reps make the right number of attempts for every lead across all channels, including email, social, and the phone. It's the solution to serve the rep the next best lead every single time. You need to get your solution at vanillasoft.com. I love that opening. I've not seen that before. That was awesome. And I particularly like Meridith's car. I just want to say I'm in love with the car.
Yeah.
So there we go. Let's love it.
That's actually my car that I loaned her. So just saying.
She
I
wears
will
it.
say those
the
are
show off today.
Well, I'm just going to tell you that you guys can have the car, but those are my guns. Those arms belong to me.
Nice.
All right. Welcome to Sales Logic, the show where we dive into the strategies, we discuss the techniques, and we give you the tools, exactly what you need to be more effective at sales and, well, to approach the sale logically. I'm Meridith Elliott Powell, and I am here with my co-host,
Mark Hunter. And welcome also Daryl Prail to today's show.
Hello.
Well, Daryl, we are excited to have you here because let me talk a moment about how the show works. We've got a topic that we are going to dive into. We close the show out with a lightning round, but we kick every show off with a question from one of our listeners dealing live with the challenges that sales professionals are dealing with today. So, Mark, if it's good with you, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the question. And the question today is from somebody that you know, Mark. You ready?
Ready to go.
All right. So this gentleman follows.
You're going to ask the question. Go ahead.
No, go for it, Mark.
See how well we script this show out? It is amazing. The question comes from Sales Logic. We'll see it. And hey, we may just answer it next week's show. So back to answering the question. I guess I'll repeat it one more time here. The question is, best way to stick to the basics, the tried and true methods of what works in sales. Meredith, jump in.
Well, I love this question because I think in everything that's going on today, and we're all, in the moment you get into crisis, everybody starts to grab for the newest, latest shiny object. But this question really speaks to what's true about sales. I mean, one of my favorite books on sales is How to Win Friends and Influence People. One, because it was written in the 1930s, and two, because everything in it is still relevant today. And at the end of the day, it is about the basics, with sales. And one of the things that I think you need to do in order to stick to the basics is you've got to ask yourself, do you have a sales strategy? And do you track and measure that strategy? I mean, Mark, you were talking earlier about busy versus productive. And the only way that I can measure whether I am busy versus productive is I know what I've got to do to hit my numbers, what sales calls I've got to make, what proposals I've got to write, how many proposals I've got to close. And that day in, day out of tracking those things and seeing what's getting me results and what isn't getting me results. But Daryl, would love to have you weigh in, just basically your thoughts on the basics in general. And then what, if anything, you do to make sure you're sticking to the basics?
So I may go off on a slightly different tangent. For me, it's funny, I'm actually glad you talked first, Meredith, because it gave me time to ponder the question. And when I think, my immediate reaction when I think about the basics for me is it's not necessarily the processes, because I'm pretty confident you've got tools today, whether it be VanillaSoft or something else, that you've probably got processes that work for you. And I love that Meredith said, you're looking at what's working and what's not, productive versus busy. That's incredibly powerful. But to me, the basics are, what do we do when we're selling? At its most basic is we're having a conversation, a relationship, if you will, with our buyer. So am I actually engaging them in a way that shows that I care, that I add a little value, that I'm not necessarily pitching, that I'm not viewing them as a transaction, and that I'm a resource for them to help them overcome their challenges. So I'm looking at what's my phone script, what's my email script, what's my social media script, and does it embody that? Or is it just pitch, feature dump, and I'm going to not personalize anything, and I'm just going to crank through. I'm going to use sales engagement for bad, because with sales engagement, the irony of sales engagement is I can do massive amounts of activity. So many people let's play a numbers game, or I'm just going to do bad crap in high volume. And that's not the basics. And then the other thing I would do is I would actually challenge your assertion around the relevance of the basics. And hear me out. I'm a big believer, our show, Inside Sales podcast, about being marginally better. The only way you get marginally better is you take what's working, which are the basics, and then you say, okay, I want to do an A/B test, and I'm going to do one little tweak and say, let's monitor for a week or something. And am I better? And if, the traditional way won, great. Next week, I do a different tweak against the traditional way. Or if the tweaked way won, next week I do another one against the tweaked way. So I'm iteratively getting better. The basics are good, but that doesn't mean you stop. But what it does mean to me is you don't get overwhelmed thinking that a new piece of technology or a new script or a new piece of content is going to change everything about your success. It's not. And if you fall into that trap, then you're going to have a lack of success.
Yeah.
Now, you just heard from Daryl Prail, and you might say, wait a minute, when did he come on to Sales Logic Podcast? Well, when you're the sponsor, he's the Chief Marketing Officer at VanillaSoft. Hey, we are happy to have him on the show. But you know what? Did you catch something about his answer to that question? He is incredibly insightful with his answers. So that's, again, why we enjoy having him on this show here today. I'm going to add one more piece to this question, because then we need to really get into the topic, the topic of today. And that is, ask yourself this question when you get done talking to anybody. And talking is so key, that the telephone is more relevant today than it's ever been. What makes you believe the customer thinks there's a reason why they should even buy from you? You see, what I find so many times happening is that salespeople are just throwing stuff out there. They're throwing stuff out there. But you really have to stop and ask yourself, what was the compelling piece that is going to move that customer to sit there and say they want to engage with you? And what does that mean? The tried and true basic. Do you create a call to action? Do you create? This is one of the big reasons why people are busy, but they're not productive, because they're not creating that call to action to get that next step. And all you do is wind up spinning your wheels over and over. But hey, we need to jump into the topic today. And the topic we're talking about today is really discovery skills that are relevant in today's marketplace. And hey, how do you tailor your value proposition? Now, if you think about this, it's a key issue. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Mayor, I'm going to let you run with it first. Share some thoughts on it.
Sure. Yeah, I love this topic, and I really stole it from Anita Nielsen, a friend of ours, a real sales guru, but she had used it to answer a question that I had asked about sales on LinkedIn. And I've got to tell you that I'm really passionate about discovery, because I think it's one of the most underutilized and most understood parts of the sales process. And the one thing that I think that people need to understand about discovery is it is not a stage in the sales process. You don't do it at step 3 and you don't do it again. It happens over and over and over again in the sales process. Every time that your customer is talking, every time you ask a question and they're saying something, you need to be listening for ways to go deeper, discover more about what their pain points and their challenges are. So often what I see salespeople do is they go through discovery, they hear a problem, they jump the problem, they sell a product, the customer account is closed, and you move on to the next customer. And discovery, when it needs to be done over and over and over again through the sales process. But Daryl, what do you think?
No, I love that you said it needs to be done over and over and over again in the sales process, because it does. And the thing about discovery is you need, and this if I'm candid, this is where I see most sales processes break down, is that you're not doing discovery, all right? You're trying to rush to a demo, for example, so you can do a feature dump. B, you're not doing a discovery by stakeholder, because a champion versus a financial advocate, versus a technical advocate, whatever, all have different requirements. And instead, once you find somebody that is taking up your cause, who will actually take your calls and listen to you, you just stick with them and you put all your money on them. So discovery is a process. It's not just about their pain, but it's also discovery around the opportunity. Who has influence on this buying process? Who will be affected? Who will be impacted? Can I talk to them? And if more people did that, you would actually have shorter sales cycles. You would actually have shorter demos because you could only show just what matters to them. And you would dramatically differentiate yourself from your competition. Most of you are scared to do that because you don't want to upset anybody. And I think what you need to do is change your mindset. It's not about upsetting anybody. It's about making sure you've heard everybody, and your champion will be the victor here because they will understand, if you tell them and educate them, that in fact you're helping make them a rock star by getting all the stakeholders to have inclusion and input. So when the recommendation is made for you, they're going to support the decision as opposed to object because they weren't heard.
I'm going to add that I think
going to look at.
Well, no, I'm going to jump in.
I'm going to say you're a moron. Go ahead. Yep.
No, what you said was so spot on, and I'm glad you linked it to the demo, because this is one of the things that I vomit. I vomit the race to the demo. And let me tell you something. I don't think too many people wake up in the morning and sit there and say, "Oh joy, I get to sit through a couple more demos from stupid salespeople," because that's what they are. They are featured dumps. If you are really concerned, or if you're really interested about creating incremental sales, then you need to run deeper into the discovery process. And it occurs at every phase. And I'll argue the best discovery occurs just after the introduction, at the early stages of when confidence is being built. Because it's at that point that they're willing to share with you truth. They're willing to share with you. Ultimately, what it is, it's not about crafting a solution that does everything. It's about crafting a solution that takes care of their deepest, most critical need. And you're only going to find that out by going deep into the discovery process. And I'm going to pick up on two other pieces here. This is where I can't stand so many sales processes, because they're kind of built on this automated system. I go from point A, point B, point C, point D. And it does not allow in there for the whole discovery phase to take place, because I don't necessarily know where the discovery phase is going to take place. I mean, I don't know where it's going to go, because it can run in several different directions. But here's the whole thing. I got to be prepared to let it go where the customer wants to go. Now, I'll bring it back in. But I got to let the customer share. And the only way I'm able to do that is by sitting there, by being able to put that question out on the table and letting them chew on it. And then me coming back with that next question that just keeps building and building and building. But here's why I think so many people are afraid to do discovery, because they really don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. And they just want to stick to this process. And they're afraid, because I'll argue the best salespeople out there, the best discovery process, you're hitting a home run when you can ask the customer a question that they can't answer and you can't answer. Now think about that for a moment. Yeah. When both the customer and you can't answer that question, what's that going to do? That's going to force a dialogue. That's going to create a conversation. That is the ultimate in discovery. That's how you really create incremental opportunities and not just be a stupid order taker. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox. Mayor, I'll let you put a close on this.
Well, I want to pick up on something you said. It's that I think that salespeople are afraid of discovery because they think they have to have the answers, and you don't have to have the answer as a salesperson. In fact, I used to say when I hired salespeople that the first couple of days they were on the job before they understood our products and services, they were the best salespeople I ever had, because when they went out to talk with a customer, all they could do was stay in discovery mode, because they could identify problems, they could identify opportunities, but they couldn't solve them because they weren't yet well versed on the products and services. You have lots of time to create solution. You can go back and work with your coworkers. As Mark said, you can create that dialogue. But discovery has always been important, but in the time of COVID, customers are more probably confused than they've ever been. They don't know exactly what they need. They don't understand exactly what their opportunities are. And your value is staying in discovery mode and really digging deeper and helping them really uncover what would be most valuable for them. Mark, I do want to ask you and Daryl just two quick questions. one apiece. I mean, the same question, but just because the second part of this was on tailoring your value prop. And I think it's important, since we talked about discovery, helping our listeners understand that the value prop does need to change in today's marketplace, and what that means and what that looks like. And Daryl, I'll kick it to you first.
So one of the things, so I'm going to answer the question, but for the audience, let me give you some context. Mark introduced me as the Chief Marketing Officer. What that means in this context is that I'm also the Chief Buying Officer here at the company. I have the biggest disposable fund of dollars at most companies a marketing person does, because we have program spend. We don't have staff necessarily. So I am probably the most targeted individual, maybe beyond the CEO at our company, to spend money. So I can relate to this. So when your question is talking about tailoring the value prop, let me tell you what you should do. Let me tell you what I want you to do. All right. What you should do is what your value prop has got to adapt based on what you learn in discovery. I don't want to hear your boilerplate, because I don't care about what you do for others. I mean, there's going to come a point in time I'm taking you seriously. I want to know who else are your clients so I can do social proof. And I do want to know that you understand my business, but I really care about my problem, and I care about how you address it. So you need to tailor your response, which is why you need to do discovery. So it's contextual. Now, this is my biggest beef about you as a buyer, is you're throwing stuff against the wall, hoping I pick up on something, and I can actually take your value prop, what you think is your unique selling proposition, and I can say, well, I have this pain over here. It sounds like maybe what they're saying might help me over here. When I have to work like that, this is what happens. I go, but I'm really busy right now, so I'm going to get rid of them. Hang up, gone. Whereas if you do the discovery, so you can actually connect the dots and actually lead me like the Pied Piper, and I feel engaged and I feel listened to, and I feel like you gave me the exact answer I wanted to hear. Even if your answer is, I can't help you here, but I think I can help you there, and this is why, you've got my attention, because I have real pain. That's my long-winded answer.
I'll give you a shorter-winded answer. The best presentation ever given is the presentation never given. What do I mean by that? You've done such a good job on the discovery. There's no demo. It is purely a dialogue. It is a conversation right back to your specific needs, where I think, and I'm going to echo and I'm going to mirror exactly what Daryl said. Too many sales are lost because the customer ghosts the salesperson because they're tired of hearing them talk about all the generality. They get tight, get specific. Bring me the best. That's all I want, the solution. And I'm only going to know that if I've done the discovery call. One final piece. This is why so many demos, I think 90% of all demos, are a joke or a waste, because they're nothing but a feature dump. Hey, we got to get in. We got to move fast. The clock is ticking. We got to get into the lightning round. And Mayor's going to announce the lightning round, but I'm going to drop the gauntlet right here. Lightning round means that our answers have to be 10 seconds or less. Go.
That's right.
I don't think I can do that.
You can. We have faith in you, Daryl. So this is the part of the podcast where our listeners need to be taking notes, because we are going to give them action items that they can walk away and implement immediately. So the lightning round today are the best places to prospect, to find prospects. Mark, kick us off.
Know your ICP, your ideal customer profile. When you know who that is, those are the only people you want to be going after. Daryl, jump
Excellent.
in.
The best places to find my prospect, I will argue, is social media. People are getting tired of the phone. It still works. They're getting tired of email because it's overwhelming the volume. But real conversation happens on LinkedIn, and you can find prospects in the comments.
Excellent.
Mayor,
I think one of the best places to prospect is to make a list of customers you've had for the last couple of years and ask them to send you a referral.
Oh, that's good.
Mayor, you stole that one right out of my, that was the one I was going to share. So, hey, here's the next one. Know who your ICP is and go back to them and get them to give you more business because each one of them has got another division, another person, something or other. Because again, you can expand from within. Daryl.
We're still doing this? I thought I only had 10 seconds. You're messing me up. Oh, this is not good. The next thing is any conversations you find on social media, you reach out to with a private one-on-one connection or an email, and you give context around that conversation, and you ask to continue the conversation offline. Doing that, they will do it because you're part of their tribe and you're going to help them out.
You know, this one's going to sound simple, but I just say brainstorm. I mean, one of the things that I always have my clients do is sit down and brainstorm everybody you want to do business with. And that's your dream top 20 or top 30. And then start through social media like Daryl's connection and finding the connections that you've got to them.
And I'm going to close it out by saying this one, and it's going to rub some people the wrong way. Stop networking. Network creates long-term. Yeah, I ruffled a few feathers with that one. Networking creates.
You ruffled mine.
Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with networking. But when I'm prospecting, I'm about getting business today. That's why I zero in on my ICP. Okay, so now that I dropped the bomb on that one, we've got to kind of wrap up the show here. And hey, let me just say this. Thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we've said has earned you a single dollar, consider telling a friend about our show. It's how we grow to help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell. We need to thank our guest, Daryl. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
you turn uncertainty to a competitive advantage.
and the sale becomes logical. We'll see you next week. On behalf of Meridith, Daryl Prale, special guest from VanillaSoft, I'm Mark Hunter. Thank you for listening.
Most people refer to VanillaSoft as the solution. It's the solution to ensure sales reps make the right number of attempts for every lead across all channels, including email, social, and the phone. It's the solution to serve the rep the next best lead every single time. You need to get your solution at VanillaSoft.com.